question. Why don't you have flowers?
It's not a hard case. Flowers don't play flowers. It's possible, but I don't remember.
Is he supposed to form a star?
I'm already having someone say, do I click the library?
We get that.
Oh, and this is my husband.
Once they're up, it's just stages like this.
That originally comes from, well, I get a copy of someone died in the world, and they can see it here, the zoo, and they'll cover the stone, the graded stone. The animals,
So that one's just looking at his face.
and considered whether you know the person or not, it was considered an honor. They put another rock on, right? Look at the article in Kurgan, the last national geography after the Still Street.
Should I?
Yeah.
But I not respond to the Facebook post.
That's probably where it originates from. In the Western world, it came way
Clarify that in the post. I think there's like 900 people commented on it.
Yeah, I don't know why that shows on everybody's screen. All right, so we're going down the rest of the back.
Making a big deal out of tombstone dedications is in the early 20th century.
And I remember you carried around a box of stones. I don't know, my mother's area.
Where do you live?
In Florida, we go down there. She has three beautiful girls. Parkland, Florida? You know where the MSD shooting was? Yeah, have you heard of the shooting? We used to be able to see the high school from our backyard.
My sister did Jacksonville.
It's a different country.
It is.
What was that? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ted actually saw our couple building before it was finished.
He's from here?
His wife is, and he and my wife, before they became parents, he and my wife were at the movie.
Yeah, we have two Jewish senators, Debbie Wasser and Schultz. No, not his.
Not mine. But, we have lots of things. Section of my wife's family was speaking. And I have found close to it.
Matter of fact, I went out with her January 3rd when she moved, and that's when I found out about her. All I want to do is get home.
Which camera is it?
It'll be, actually, there's two cameras there.
Wow.
It'll be the second one.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
We live a mile and a half apart.
Waiting for the young man to come out of the men's room. All right, when you come back, we'll Schnei Kriya, and we'll go. Very good.
There's a delay. Yeah, that's okay. Wait, are you doing it all together?
Yeah, I told him when he comes back, you're going to do Kriya, and then he'll be here.
Well, you'll do it in one room again, and we'll do it in another room. Well, unless you want to do it on your left.
We want to make an announcement about the cleaning the mics and stuff like that. Those of you who have the ribbons, in the corners,
Joni, can you come over? Now we know some of the friends and family are going to be speaking. There are some wipes up on the podium. You can wipe down the podium, you can wipe down the microphone before or after you speak, so it's clean for the next person.
We can take off our masks when we.
You're far enough away if you'd like to. I don't tell people yes or no, whatever you're comfortable with, but you are more than the 6 feet distance. So, Robin?
Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu, our God, God of our ancestors. Even 1,000 years in your sight are as a passing day, as an hour of the night. Our generations come and go, but you, O God, endure forever. We are always in your hand, Adonai, in death and in life. Help those of us who mourn the loss of our dear Ferne to look beyond this moment, to realize that death cannot destroy the bonds of your everlasting love. Sustain us with the knowledge of our faith, that you will not allow us to suffer oblivion. For you, Eternal One, have taught us the way of life. Through you we gain eternity. And we say, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam dayan hamet. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, the righteous judge. And as the prophet Job taught us, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, but now taken away, and still we praise God's name. Ferne Barr, Freda Gittel bat Lippmann Vezissel, daughter of Cecile and Leonard, is missed and mourned by her husband Norm, by Ross and Jody, by Joni and Bill and Howard and Jane, by her grandchildren Eli, Lana, and Sadie, by her nieces and nephews Lindsay, Allison and Robert, Beth and Stephen, Shana and Michael, and Reuben and Rita, by her sister-in-law Roz and Alan, by her great nieces and nephews, by her many, many, many friends. She was preceded in death by her parents, Cecile and Leonard in Michigan, and by her son Eric. Mizmor David, Adonai Roi Lo Echzal, Binot Deshe Yalbitzeni Al Mei Menuchot Yinahaleni,
Nafshi yoshkivev yanchileni u'ma'agle tzedek l'ma'an shemo. God is our shepherd, we shall not want. God causes us to lie down in green pastures. God leads us beside still waters. God restores our souls. God guides us in the righteous paths for the sake of the divine name. And even when, in moments such as this, when we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil, for you, God, are with us. Your rod and staff comfort us. You prepare a table before us, even in the presence of our enemies. You've anointed our heads with oil, and our cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow us all of the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Ach tov v'chesed yildafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai l'orech yamim. Job teaches us as well that there is no place and no way of replacing a person of wisdom. There are mines for silver and places where gold is refined. Iron can be taken from the earth and copper smelted from a rock. But where can wisdom be found? And what is the source of understanding? There is no replacing a person of wisdom. And in Mishlei and Proverbs, Eshet Chayil mi yimtza. What a precious find is a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband put his confidence in her and lacked no good thing. She was good to him all of the days of her life. She opened her hand to the needy, was clothed with strength and splendor, always looked to the future cheerfully, opened her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue was guided by kindness. She oversaw the activities of her household, never ate the bread of idleness. Her children have come forward to bless her. Her husband praises her. Many women have done superbly, but you, Ferne, surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Wherever people gather, they shall speak her praise. Ferne will now be remembered by her niece Shana, her sister Joni, her brother Howard, and her son Ross. Sure you can. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you'll want to be, and you know what, you won't be on the camera, so.
Got it.
That interrupts you.
Thank you.
Ferne was my favorite aunt. We had nicknames for each other. I called her F.A., favorite aunt, or Fave. She called me Shana Mindy, which is what Eric called me as a little boy. And she gave me, actually, no, she called me Shana, she called me mine Shana, which is what Eric called me as a little boy. Shana Mindy is my middle name, and she gave me my middle name, actually. And she always told me she wished that I liked Mindy more than Shana, and wished that everyone called me that because she gave it to me. When I was born, Ferne made a pact with my mother that she would be the person to buy me my first bra. So, years later, I had one of the most outrageous, funny, and morbidly embarrassing moments of my preteen years in Higbee's, and it's something I'll never forget. And similarly, I made the same pact with Jody when Lana was born, and both Lana and Sadie will be subjected to the same thing. When I first met Mike and I brought him home to the family, Ferne was the one that grabbed Mike, sat him down, and told him everything she could about me as a child, including the fact that I had troubles with my F's, and I used to call her Aunt Thurn. Mike loved this. He held on to it, and he always called her Thurn, all the time. She was very thoughtful. She thought of everybody all the time. Whenever she traveled, if she bought gifts for everybody when she came back, wherever she went. I'm wearing a ring today that she brought me from China when her and Uncle Norman went years ago. Fern sparkled. She sparkled more than any diamond she ever wore. She was the life of the party. She was outgoing, she was fun, and she loved fiercely. I'm so grateful to have had this incredible woman as my aunt, as my friend, as a confidant. I'm going to miss her incredibly, like we all are. And I'm just so grateful to have had what I've had with her.
I don't need to wipe it off. Shana didn't touch a thing. I've known Fern, or Foof, as I call her, longer than anyone in this room, and probably longer than anyone that's viewing this virtually, except for our 3 first cousins. And I wish my cousin Eileen was here today. Fern was 5 years older than me, and growing up, that was a big difference. We used to fight like cats and dogs. Our cousin Eileen reminded me the other day that they called me a little pest, and they wouldn't let me play with them. And I think I remember, and Howard, I don't remember if it was you or me, somebody kicked in the den door trying to get in there one time. That was me. When Foof went away to OU, we actually missed each other, and that's when we began to become close. One weekend I took a bus to Athens, Ohio for Little Sisters Weekend, and we had a great time. 2 years later, Fern transferred home to go to Case Western Reserve. She lived at home, and we began to do a lot of things. I think I was a junior or a senior in high school, and we began to do a lot of things together. We used to go to Toledo and stay at my dad's Ban Ray Motel just for the heck of it. We'd go to Geneva on a lake with Jerry Gurrell. And before she and Norm got married, we took a trip to London. And we met the Barr's cousin, Grace. That was a great girls' trip. We would go, and I probably shouldn't say this, we used to go to Weight Watchers together. We'd go to the meetings. We'd get weighed in. And then we'd go to the Brown Derby on Cedar Hill and have dinner. That was the things we used to do. Foof used to come, when I went to Ohio State, and Fern used to come down to Columbus and visit me. In my senior year, I was home for a weekend, and we went to a B'nai B'rith function, and we met Norman. Little did I know they would fall in love and marry right after my graduation. And after I graduated, I moved back home for a while, and we used to hang out at the Hampton House or Hamilton House all the time. Then a year later or so, during a 4th of July weekend, one of my friends had a party, and I had a kind of a date, and Bill was there. And Norman called me over, and he said, "Get rid of that guy and talk to Bill." And I did, and a year later we got married. However, our anniversary is August 17th, and Fern's birthday is August 18th, and I had such a hard time leaving Cleveland, even though I was starting a new life. And our lives moved on. We saw each other for most of the holidays, and the 4 of us always had a great time together, spending many New Year's Eves together in Cleveland, and whenever we would come to Cleveland. And when I was in California with Lindsay, we found pictures of the 4 kids together, and Lindsay's going to scan and make copies for everybody. And until this year with COVID, when Fern and Norman were in Florida, we used to have New Year's Eve together. We had a tradition. We had two of our very close friends we always spent New Year's Eve with, and Fern and Norm became part of that. I remember when Ross was born. Back then, we don't know the sex of the baby, and when we found out it was a boy, we made plans to come in for the bris. However, it was the week before the blizzard of 78, and we didn't know if we were going to get in, but we got in. And now, with this time coming back here, I would only come in the snow for my sister. And after Ross, Bill and I had Lindsay, and then Eric followed, and Allison followed, and we had so much fun as family. Family vacations in Florida, family cruises. We were so fortunate to have the time together. And Fern and Norm and Bill and I and Wendy and Mel went to Israel in 2000. And it was an experience we'll never forget. I retired several years ago and learned how to play canasta. And I became a regular in her game in Huntington, at HP Huntington Point, and became friendly with her friends. She would occasionally play mahjong with my friends, but would always complain they played too slow. And she taught mahjong. We were so blessed to have spent so much time with Fern and Norman, and especially during the past 5 or 6 weeks. And it was quality time. At the end, I fielded calls from her many friends and tried to keep them all up to date via texting as to her status. I just wanted to be with her. Oh, and by the way, we were lucky to be with Russ and Jody and the kids. I thought we would have more time. Throughout this short but horrible journey, she never complained. As a matter of fact, she was so optimistic, saying she was going to make it to Eli's bar mitzvah. My sister was larger than life. She and Norman were always the life of the party. Their many, many friends are a true testament to that. I still can't believe she's gone. I have so much more I want to do with her and say to her. But I can only say that I will miss you every day. And please give Eric and Mom and Dad a big hug and kiss for me. Foof, I miss you so much. My heart is broken. I was blessed to have you as my sister.
I have to wipe off your germs.
I've been fully vaccinated.
That's right, I haven't. So, yeah, right, exactly. Yep. Whew. Boy, that was beautiful, Joni.
Thank you. I'm glad I didn't go after you.
You took away everything I was going to say. But, boy. My name is Howard Mishkin, and I'm Fern's baby brother. She was 10... And your baby brother, exactly. She was 10 years older than me, but always introduced me as her big brother. Preparing what...
You called me your older sister.
That's right. Preparing what I was going to say, I wound up ripping up my speech about 10 different times and wrote it over again and over again and over again. And Ross is sitting there shaking his head because you probably did the same thing. For all the family and friends that are watching on Zoom all across the country that loved my sister Fern, I know how difficult it must be to not be with us at this time of sadness. Please know that we will all celebrate her life with you at a happier time when we get back to normal. I know you're all hurting and saddened by her death as we are. I can just imagine the standing room only attendance that we would have if we were in the large auditorium. We would probably have to have people waiting out in the hallway, but because of the pandemic, we're stuck in this situation. Before I talk about my sister, I want to give a shout out to my nephew, Ross, because I am so proud of you. You have 42 years young. You have demonstrated through everything that your mom has gone through, your dad has gone through, your family has been so cohesive in supporting your parents. You were down in Florida. You drove back to New Jersey. You were on your way back to New Jersey when you got a call about your dad. You came back, and you have been the rock. I could not have done that in a million years, and we are all so proud of you. I know your dad is just gleaming with love and affection for you, for Jody, and it's amazing what you've done. So thank you on behalf of all of us. So Fern and I, we had a complicated relationship. We were very different in so many ways. When I would meet one of her friends, and God knows she had a lot, everyone loved her and said so many nice things about her. Your sister's fun. I love your sister. Fern and Norm are such great people. We love being with them. Fern was so generous with her time and always had a story to tell. I would often kid that I must have been adopted because we were so different in so many ways. But I heard these stories about my sister, and I realized that even though we were so different, we were in many ways a lot alike. Reading social media and all those people that are watching on Zoom that have made the comments about Fern and how loving she was and how generous she was and how much fun she was, it made me realize and appreciate so much more who my sister was, and perhaps things that I missed that I didn't get to appreciate as much. So for everyone that's watching on Zoom, thank you for giving me sort of a conscience awakening experience to let me know about my sister a little bit more than as a sibling I wasn't able to appreciate. As I reflect back on our lives, I recall when I was 6 and Fern was 16, I was a pest, and Fern let me know it by pushing me down the stairs at our house on Rye Road. I was jealous of her relationship with her friends, and I realized I was jealous of her relationship with Joni. Fern always said that I was my parents' favorite, and I think we competed in so many ways for the attention throughout our lives, and that's what made us fight so much, because we were fighting for the same attention. Like so many siblings, we fought over so much ridiculous things and wouldn't talk for months, but then we would talk again. We both had very strong personalities. I know that's probably hard to believe, but we had a hard time admitting we were wrong. And obviously, we were wrong a lot. I remember when Ross was 18 months old, and Fern said, "You're never going to see him again." I can't remember what it was that we were arguing about, but I got to see you again, Ross. So I was always a practical joker. I remember when Fern and Norm returned after their honeymoon, and I met them in the driveway and looked with horror at them. And I told them, "Boy, you're in big, big trouble." And they looked at me, "What happened?" I said, "Mom and Dad, they were waiting for you. They didn't know where you were, and they're really, really upset." And I always remembered that. What stands out in my mind that I'll never forget about my sister is she loved life and always was looking forward to her next trip, the next time with her family and her friends, or outings or events, and was constantly on the go. She was blessed with so many friends. Fern had cancer 2 times before her pancreatic cancer and never gave up. She always had a positive attitude and beat the odds with that cancer and planned to beat the odds with this one. Unfortunately, the pancreatic cancer won out on this one. She loved her family and her friends and would do anything for them. When you got together with Fern and Norm, Fern was never shy. I know that's probably another surprise to everybody, and was always part of the conversation and wanted to know what we were talking about or what we were saying. Most importantly, what I will always remember is just how inseparable Fern and Norm were. One would start a sentence, and the other would finish it. They would always be together and truly loved each other. And I remember what Norm told me, that every night Norm would go to bed and say, "I love you," and Fern would say, "I love you more." And we should all be so blessed to have that kind of relationship in our lives. You were blessed, and Norm, know that we all love you and will be there for you We love you very much. Ross, I will clean this off for you. My weapons with me. All right, put them in my pocket.
So, I want to thank very much to all the close family that you guys can't see online that are here, that dropped everything to be here with us at a moment's notice. And my mom and dad's many good friends that are with us remotely. COVID stinks for many reasons. It's been a hard year for everyone, but it's especially hard today that we're not able to see all the beautiful faces and people that we loved and that my mother loved. As Uncle Howard said, no doubt there would be hundreds of people next door to us here. It's hard that we can't do that with you, but it's very comforting to know that people are watching remotely, and thank you all for being there with us. My mother, Ferne Barr, she was a character. She was a character. Yes, her middle name and last name actually were Gay Barr. That's not a lie. She was born Ferne Gay, Michigan. Gay had a very different meaning in 1945 when she was born. But as I was saying, she was a character. She was a very loving and kind woman. She was a great mother, wife, daughter, sister, cousin, aunt, and grandmother. But she was also fun, funny, and wildly inappropriate. Wildly inappropriate. I squarely owe my penchant for making sexual innuendos to my mother. So, how many people can say that about their moms? But she was great. She was fun, very fun. She was fun and cool to be around, as I said, and I have a million stories that I could tell to express that, but one in particular sticks out. Many years ago, when my brother Eric, who we all miss very dearly, was still alive, we went on a cruise that stopped in Jamaica. Eric and I, who thought we were very cool when we were in late teens, we purchased about $20 of like the biggest shitty bag of marijuana that you could ever find in Jamaica, and came back on the cruise and started smoking it back on the cruise. So like any responsible parent, my mom actually caught us on the balcony, confiscated the weed, and punished us, as she should. So we got back to Cleveland, and when we got back, she pulled me aside privately and handed me the bag of weed. I was shocked. I was shocked, not only because I thought I was in trouble and that never in a million years that she'd give that back to me, but I was even more shocked that she would risk smuggling $20 worth of marijuana across the U.S. border just to make her son happy. Few mothers commit international crimes to make their sons happy, but that was the way that my mom was. She loved my father very, very much. Some people said they were married for close to 50 years. Throughout their lives together, my father, Norman, was very devoted to my mother, and they were the ultimate power couple. They made countless friends, deep and meaningful friendships. My mother was very fortunate to have a wonderful sister and brother, 2 sisters-in-law and 1 brother-in-law, 4 nieces, 1 nephew, and 3 grandchildren that she loved very, very much. Many other friends and family as well. And as am I, my mother was very, very fortunate to have the very best daughter-in-law in the world in Jody. At least since Eli was born, Jody has called my parents every single day. Every single day. Can't say that about many daughters-in-law. And as a result, Jody and my mother were very, very close. Very, very close. Some of you may know that Jody, the kids, and I rented a house with my parents all of this past December and January. We figured we would get a lot of quality time with them since I was working from home from the foreseeable future, and the kids were doing remote school. Little did we know at the time that my mom would receive her diagnosis a little over a month into that trip and be gone a short month or so after that diagnosis. She had beaten cancer twice twice before that. And she was determined to beat it a third time. You know, as Aunt Jody said, she was always positive, very upbeat, positive spirits, and she was determined to be it at Eli's bar mitzvah. But above all else, she was more concerned about my father than she was herself. She was worried about him. You'd ask her, and she'd say, "Don't worry about me. I'm worried about your father." So I'm comforted in many respects that she didn't suffer for too long. But her death, frankly, was very quick after her diagnosis, and we were all shocked. We were all shocked. I'm still shocked. I still can't believe it. But in any event, to wrap up, you know, I just want to make sure that we said that my father, Jody, the kids, the rest of our family that's here, we appreciate all the love and support from everyone very much. It's been very helpful to get through this. I've received calls, texts, emails, Facebook messages, no Twitter messages, but most of social media from hundreds of people. And that's all a testament to my mom, and the love and the friendship that she sent out, and she received back tenfold. You know, when people love and are loving, they receive that love back. So I hope everyone that's watching and everyone that's in the room cherishes their memories of my mom. I know that I will. So my father actually wrote something that he wanted me to read as well. I'll probably read that more verbatim and try to struggle to decipher his handwriting, so bear with me a second. This is my father speaking now. "I'm incredibly proud of my children, Jody and Ross. Both Fern and I love them with all of our heart. They, along with our 3 grandchildren, meant the world to us. Ross has stepped up to the plate to make plans and has done everything for our family." I swear I did not write that. That was him. "There was only one Fern. I loved her with all my heart as she loved me. We were a team, always together and always with a smile on our face. How lucky the kids rented a house in our neighborhood for a few months this winter due to the kids being in virtual school. We got to spend time together, and it was a great time. My heart is broken and always will be without my Fern, who I love very much." So that was from my father. I also wanted to say as well, you may have seen on the Facebook post that we made, we're going to do, again, in light of COVID, we're not able to have in-person meetings, Shiva, so we're going to do a Zoom Shiva this evening at 7:30 and Saturday at 7:30. For those that are watching, hopefully you saw the Facebook post that I made. John Eisenberg's helping me. Very appreciate John doing that. Is helping me curate the list of people that have access to the Zoom. So if you haven't done so already, the way to get that Zoom link, send an email to Ferne Barr Shiva, FERNEBARRSHIVA. Ferne Barr. We're lucky that Ferne Barr Shiva wasn't taken. We had to go with Ferne Barr Shiva 2 or something like that at gmail.com. Ferne Barr Shiva at gmail.com. And he'll send you that link. It's the same link for both Wednesday and Saturday at 7:30. That's it. Sorry, there was one more thing I wanted to say. I'm sorry. I also wanted to say a special thanks to Aunt Roz's friend Wendy, who made some very nice masks in a nice tribute to my mother. There's a picture of my mom and a Jewish star on there. So I'm sure you're watching, Wendy. Thank you very much. That was so sweet.
Thank you all. Ben Sira writes, "We are all destined to die. We share it with all who ever lived and with all who ever will be. Cry for the dead, hide not your grief, do not restrain your mourning. But remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace. Be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain. Eternal rest is better than constant sickness. Let us not seek to understand what is too difficult for us, nor search for what is hidden, nor be preoccupied with what is beyond, for we have already been shown more than we can understand. As a drop of water in the sea is a grain of sand on the shore, are our own few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but Ferne's good name will live on forever. We've heard all sorts of wonderful things, true things about Ferne. We all miss her, and will continue to miss her. We heard that she and Norm met at the B'nai B'rith event, at a B'nai B'rith event. Norm reports that they began dating that November, and after each date was over, they'd talk for another couple of hours. That pattern continued for their 50 some odd years together, because even in these last months, when one or both of them was in the hospital, they would speak to each other 10 to 12 times a day. They dated from November to January, were engaged at the end of February, and married on May 28, 1972. They worked together in business for 40 years, and there is no greater testament to a great relationship than the ability to do that. They traveled the world, as you heard, and each night they professed their love for each other, or their love more for each other. They cared for each other in good times as well as in bad. And while they had a wonderful, beautiful life together, it was not happiness without alloy. As we all know, Eric's death about 20 years ago was the worst tragedy that occurred to them. They found their way to an organization known as Compassionate Friends, which helped them to heal as best as one can heal from the loss of a child. And then in turn, being who they are, who Ferne was, they helped to heal others who came behind them in such tragic circumstances. They were active in the community. I cannot say enough about Norm and Ferne's activities at Temple Emmanuel. The Eric Barr Ark, the fund in Eric's memory that they've asked contributions in memory of Ferne to go to, Ferne's involvement with the women of Temple Emmanuel, their participation, and I shouldn't say participation, I really should say leadership, in the capital campaign, which allowed our congregation to find its new home in Orange Village. But perhaps the most important thing is what the current president of our congregation, Dr. David Sperling, wrote to me right after he heard of Ferne's passing on Sunday. He wrote me back an email saying, you know, when Pam, his wife, when Pam and I first showed up at Temple Emmanuel, it was Ferne Barr who ingratiated us, smiled at us, took us in, made us feel at home. That's from the current president of our congregation, who Ferne and Norm greeted when they first showed up at the Temple's door, and they remembered that. And to put it bluntly, I have heard that story from members of the congregation dozens of times in the past few days. And it was the absolute truth. And I, too, if I may be allowed a personal moment, was blessed with the same warm greeting, the same warm smile when I arrived at the community almost 18 years ago. She was upbeat and positive. And in my last phone call with Ferne, which took place within the week of her death, you guys were still down there with her. Norm was in the hospital, but the kids were running around in the background. And she stopped and excused herself. I said, Ferne, you don't have to excuse yourself. And she talked about how much she loved having the kids there and how important that time was. None of us realized that it would be ending too soon. And so we all thank God for having had Ferne in our lives, in our community, and in our family. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen B'Maromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'Malot Kedoshim U'Tohorim Kezohar Ki HaMazin, Et Nishmat Frede Gittel Bat Lipman V'Zisel, Shehalcha L'Olama, B'Gan Eden Tia Menuchata, Ana Bal HaRachamim, Hasdireha B'Seitek Nafecha L'Olamim, Utzoror B'Tzorah Chaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachlata, V'Tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'Nomar Amen. Exalted and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Ferne Barr, daughter of Cecile and Leonard. She now goes to her eternal home. May she find perfect peace in your sheltering embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. For those of you who are not with us, again, the Shiva Minyanim will be tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time, and also on Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. If you missed the connections, please write to Ferne, F-E-R-N-E, Barr, B-A-R-R, Shiva, S-H-I-V-A, as one word, at Gmail, or you can check, if you missed that, you didn't have something to write down, if you look at Berkowitz-Kumin-Bookatz's website, you can find the information there. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask those of you that are going to be pallbearers to step forward. No, absolutely. 6 to 8. If not, don't worry about it. We'll